Whatever else. Let's see. Bitcoin. We didn't talk about that. That's a good one. If you got in early, fantastic. God love you. But what you've got is a $400 million asset class where essentially Chinese gamblers, smugglers, and rich people who used to invest in unicorns in Silicon Valley but got bored with that have decided to buy a prestige asset. The more of them that buy it, because it's in limited supply, the more the price goes up, and it goes up and up and up, and it's incredibly volatile. So here's my line on Bitcoin. Is it money? Number one, if you have to explain to someone that it's money, it's not money. Number two, is it a store of value? No, it's too volatile. Is it a unit of exchange? No, because everybody's hoarding it because they expect the value to go up, right? Is it a unit of account? Oh, maybe if you like living in a basement and read the X-Files all the time, but normal people use dollars. So this is a bunch of rich people buying and selling stuff. That's all it is. But what about blockchain, the technology behind it? I've been hearing this for 10 years. I'm waiting to see the results, and it'll still be the same in 2018.
You barely mentioned China, even among the people who don't want a nuclear war in Korea.
Right, so they also have a strong interest in not having a nuclear war in Korea. Let's imagine that it all goes pear-shaped. It turns out that Trump is mental, Kim Il-twinky's drunk. They decide to fire a missile at San Francisco. It gets through. The United States does full retaliation. What's the incentive for the Chinese to lob their 100 missiles at the US, even if this happens, given redundant second strike capacity? Zero. As for China itself, it's going to continue to tick along, growing at about 6%, with a banking system we barely understand, levered up the wazoo, sitting on an enormous war chest, trillions and trillions of dollars in the form of T-bills and other assets. It's decided that since we won't sell them real stuff, they'll make their own. It's called the One Belt, One Road project. They've got $47 billion building port facilities in Pakistan, similar amount in Djibouti. They're building infrastructure and railroads all over the peninsula, down in Indonesia. So they're basically taking the core of the global economy from Europe and the United States, all old, by the way, growing slowly because old people save too much, they've already bought the fridge, to places with much better demography. China's not one of them, but the rest of the neighbourhood has, and they're basically, going to move the global economy over there. The one other thing I think is incredibly important is if you look at India and you look at China, the air quality is terrible. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, you can't escape this one. You can't do the Matt Damon film where you go live in a space station. If you're rich, that one's not there. So these countries have an enormous incentive to clean up their environment. The way that China got rich was basically comparative advantage in cheap labour and environmental despoilation. Their wages are rising and they can't spoil the environment anymore, so they're changing the growth model. They want to be much more consumption oriented, hence One Belt, One Road, all the rest of it. What that means is we're behind the curve on where they want to be in terms of exports. They don't want to export us anymore in volume. They want to import and grow their own economy. So they're already there. That's what One Belt, One Road's about. So like Trump's jumping around going, unfair Chinese trade. It's like, look, they're American firms in China selling to Walmart, right? This is not exactly Chinese trade. Try and figure this stuff out, right? But the longer point is this. When you've got a huge incentive to clean up your environment and you have these semi-authoritarian regimes, they will. China installed in 2015 and 2016 more solar than the United States has. One of the consequences of the United States turning away from climate change is actually progressive climate change. Here's why. Everybody sits around waiting for the Americans to do stuff. So we come and we sign on. Everyone goes, great, we've done stuff. You haven't done crap. Then you got to get 50 states to do it. Then you got to get the Senate to ratify it. And there's always going to be opposition given the power of coal and oil and other industries here. So what happens is you've got countries like China, which are actually growing, that are incredibly polluted. And they look around and they say, we have to do something about this. So then they look at the Germans. And the Germans have been doing over the past 10 years called the Energiewende, the energy shift. They're shutting down nuclear. Some of the states and some of the cities in Germany can generate at certain points 30% of their power needs just from renewables. They've got countries like Siemens, BASF, all the big conglomerates that are engineering. They've got the best engineering in the world. And they're basically making the green tech, the windmills, the solar, the next generation solar products, the renewable tech. They're licensing it to the Chinese. The Chinese are putting it up to scale, putting it out there, and then they're getting a cutback. So they're doing the technical fix. This is the only real thing that makes a difference. Because we can have as many Copenhagen meetings and champagne toasts as we want, but unless you start doing something about climate change, nothing happens. Now, having the Americans on board is great, but we talk a good game, but we don't do very much. And the ones that do, like California, are going to continue to do that anyway. So Trump telling the rest of the world we're not playing actually produces the rest of the world going, you know what, we need to get together and do it ourselves.